morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. Just want to welcome everyone, Team Amba from Wisconsin. Want to welcome Dr. Zama and Prof. Herman, who've been working very closely with them. And I want to welcome all the other participants that have signed in to be part of this webinar and this discussion. We all know that we're here today because Team Amba, which you are going to find out exactly who we're referring to, took up a project to, in collaboration with Amba Farmers Voice, led by Dr. Isaac Sama. And today we are going to be looking at an organic fertilizer policy for Ambazonia. This is all about organic fertilizer production and promotion in the southern Cameroons. And this research was done by Amba Farmers Voice in collaboration, was done by Team Amba from Robert M. La Follette Institution in collaboration with Amba Farmers Voice. So as we carry on, as we continue to have this conversation, you're going to see exactly what the research was about. The team is going to make its exhibition. You have a chance to ask whatever questions you have. So before we go and dive in, again, welcome everybody. Couple of housekeeping rules so that we do this professionally as possible. First thing is, if you are a participant and you are not on the panel, please know that you probably would have been muted, but that does not mean that you cannot communicate with us. I think after the team would have done its presentation, we would unmute a couple of people who have a word or two to say. But in the meantime, feel free to drop any question that you have in the Q&A section of this webinar. Secondly, this discussion today is all about the organic fertilizer production and promotion in southern Cameroons, right? So this is not a political discussion. This is not about the crisis. So I will urge every single participant on this webinar today to stick to the topic at hand. Let us not bring in all the other issues that surround Ambazonia and Southern Cameroons into the panel discussion. All right, so the question we're trying to answer here today is about how can Ambazonia farmers gain greater access to affordable and sustainable organic fertilizer options in order to reduce the dependence on imported chemical agricultural inputs. Now, I know that some people might be wondering why we're having this conversation today, but here is the truth. While our people can currently benefit from this, we are also looking at all the avenues, how we're going to make Ambazonia a great nation post-revolution. So these are all post-revolutionary nation building research that we are already doing. That does not mean we can only use them then. It also means we can make use of them as of today based on what we're going to find out today. So that's the question that this research was trying to answer, and we're going to see how far that was done. So Amba's Farmers Voice, in collaboration with Robert M. La Follette School of Public Affairs, invited a whole lot of you to this webinar today. And you would have received an invitation that was signed by Professor Sarah Halpen McKean, who is a professor at said institution and at the same time a faculty advisor on the team that was working on this. Unfortunately, Professor Sarah could not be here with us. And her team, the team she's been supervising, is here to show us what the outcome of that research is. So in order not to waste too much time, I will plead with everyone that is on this panel, on this webinar today, to exhibit some patience, be open-minded, learn, ask questions, and make suggestions as you see fit. I think this is a great opportunity to, again, on given all the things that we've been doing as the people of Ambazonia, to again make us such a distinguished nation. because of the way we're looking to protect and build our nation and protect our people. So, everybody, in order not to waste too much time, we are going to actually dive into the crux of it. But before we do, I think it is only fair that the person that is heading Amba Farmers Voice, who has been working diligently in collaboration with Robert M. La Follette School of Public Affairs, kind of introduce us why this was necessary, why they went ahead and did it, and what it is they were trying to achieve. And by this, I mean none other than Dr. Isaac Sama. So, Doc, if you can please welcome everyone and tell us in your own words why this was so important.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for the kind words and for welcoming everybody to this webinar on an organic fertilizer policy for Ambazonia. The research was how can our farmers gain greater access to affordable and sustainable fertilizer options in order to reduce their dependence on imported agricultural inputs. Besides this topic, Team Amba of La Follette School of Public Affairs, I think there's another question that many of us may be asking. Why do we need an organic fertilizer policy for Ambazonia, especially at this time when the liberation war has not been won? The answer is simple. First and foremost, we need to protect the health of our people. The overuse and or the careless use of chemical fertilizers are suspected of contributing to a number of illnesses. So coming out of the war, we may not have the resources to properly take care of our own people. If we can prevent them from developing illnesses that are the direct result of eating food grown with imported chemical fertilizers, we will stand to benefit collectively. Secondly, Ambazonia is blessed with all the natural resources that are necessary to make organic fertilizers throughout the whole country. From the grandmother in Noir to multinationals like CDC, we can make our own organic fertilizer. The third reason why we think this is important is because there are Ambazonians with the knowledge, the skills, and the vision to develop and grow an organic fertilizer industry that would meet the needs of the country and even for export to neighboring countries. According to the United Nations database on international trade, in 2018, La République du Cameroon imported approximately 70,000 tons of chemical fertilizer, which is worth about $70 million US. We are assuming, because our population is about 8 million, we are assuming that the amount of, if we're going to import fertilizer in the country, we would spend about $30 million US to import fertilizer. That is money which, coming out of a war, we may not have, to solve some of the problems that we may have. So making our own organic fertilizer would save this money, which can be put into better uses, including repairing the ravages of the war and other development initiatives. And lastly, organic crops command premium prices worldwide, including Africa. With a giant market, Nigeria, which is west of Ambazonia, growing food with an eye to this market, with which Ambazonia shares a border, would fetch us much needed foreign exchange that we will need to build our country. Similarly, according to the Farming Early Warning Systems report for May 2022, the price of urea fertilizer rose by 80%, that is in Cameroon, The price of urea fertilizer rose by 80%. NPK 2010, which is another fertilizer brand, rose by 70%. And NPK 13-23-13, which is another fertilizer that's used by farmers, rose by 80% due to the Russian-Ukrainian war. Russia alone supplies about 43% of La République du Cameroon's annual fertilizer imports. As of today, farmers in Santa that grow vegetables spend about CFA 31,000 francs to buy a 50-kilogram bag of fertilizer. So if we assume that a farmer is going to farm one hectare of land, that would require maybe 50 bags of fertilizer, and that is a lot of money. If you extrapolate that across the whole country, that is a lot of money which our people don't have, that could be used, for other things. Over the last 7 years, Southern Cameroonians have been the victims of an unjust war that was imposed on us by La République du Cameroon. Thousands of our people have been killed, and thousands more have escaped into foreign lands as refugees. Efforts have been made to resolve the conflict and stop the war, including most recently the Canadian initiative, which La République shamelessly withdrew from. One thing is clear, that La République will never defeat Ambazonia in this war, in spite of the military support that it receives from its Western allies. Our mothers, our fathers, sisters and brothers and children have shown a great commitment to resist the killings and the genocide. They have resisted the occupier with brilliance and determination, and they are not about to give up anytime soon. When the idea, to start thinking about an organic fertilizer policy for Ambazonia came up, there were some Ambazonians who argued that we cannot be planning for the future of Ambazonia in the middle of a liberation war. But, during the Bank of Ambazonia conference the currency conference that took place a couple of weeks ago, the chairman of the Bank of Ambazonia reminded us that Ambazonians are not a monolithic group, so that while our brothers and sisters are fighting on the ground, those of us who are not carrying weapons can be doing other things in preparation for the takeoff of our economy after the liberation war. Recent history from South Sudan teaches us that some of the challenges that South Sudan faced at independence or is still facing come from the fact that they did not properly prepare themselves for the after struggle. We cannot afford to wait for the conclusion of the war before we start thinking of drafting a constitution, designing our health policy, our monetary policy, or our agricultural policy. In fact, history tells us that we should indeed be designing such policies in parallel to the war effort. The most significant example in this regard is the Bretton Woods Conference, formerly known as the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference, which was held from July 1 to 22 of 1944, while the Second World was still going on, for the purpose of regulating the international monetary and financial order after the conclusion of the war. So, in spite of Ambazonia's diverse, abundant natural resources, we are a largely agricultural country. We strongly believe that agriculture is and shall be the bedrock of our economy. That is why we must start now designing the main components of a future agricultural policy framework, including an organic fertilizer policy for Ambazonia. It is notably for these reasons that we contacted La Follette School of Public Affairs for assistance in designing the framework of an organic fertilizer policy for Ambazonia. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Professor Sarah Hapman for working with the students in coming up with this policy, which they are going to present to us today. I would also like to sincerely thank Professor Herman Dofo, who has dedicated tremendous time and resources working with Team Amba of La Follette to build the dream that to build that dream of what a successful Ambazonian agricultural policy will look like after the war. We want to thank all of you for coming, and let me stop here and pass on the microphone to to Jesse and Team Amba for their presentation. But before I do that, allow me to pause for a minute to pay respects to the efforts of our valiant freedom fighters who, with peace plans and simple den guns, answered the call for liberation when the La République du Cameroon colonial government declared war against us. After 7 years, they have demonstrated to the world that there's only one message in our collective vocabulary: independence or resistance forever. We also honor all our civilian heroes who have paid the ultimate price so that we may be free. I would like to assure them that this generation shall never, ever surrender to La République. We also remember our leaders and brothers and sisters who are languishing in La République jails. Their sacrifices shall not go in vain. Thank you again so much for for listening to me, and I'll pass the microphone back to Jesse.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zama. I think that was so well summarized. That was awesome to listen to, and to be honest, a whole lot of us here didn't have that statistics. We have no idea how much of chemical fertilizer gets consumed in our different territories, and it is really great to know that. So, based off the introduction you just made, one can deduce that the reason why we're doing this is because, and the reason why we need to start having that policy framework is because there are numerous benefits that we're gonna have from this. Apart from the cost-saving aspect of it and the job creation opportunities, it's also very life-saving because we're talking about organic fertilizer, which is great. And of course, I don't think that anything's going to stop us from exporting to neighboring countries like La République du Cameroon, so that they can, of course, benefit from the great work that we are doing. So thank you so much, Dr. Zama. I think that was really awesome. I know everyone is so keen to meet Team Amba, so I'm going to take my time. I love to make people twitch and wait, so we are just going to make them wait, right, Megan? Let's just give them a minute to wonder what we're talking about. So as you've all heard, this was a collaboration between Amba Farmers Voice and the La Follette School of Public Affairs in University of Wisconsin-Madison capstone program, right? And the students that worked on this are actually master's degree students. And this is part of the capstone program that they have to do to work on a real life situation or question. So this was a team that came together to present a plausible solution to a real life problem like we are facing. And this team is going to talk us through that. So before we even go ahead and meet this team, there are a couple of things that I think they are worth mentioning, other than the fact that the team has worked tirelessly from January to get the results that they have today, which they want to share with us. They have been on this from the beginning of the year till today, tirelessly trying to give us a solution. And they have worked hand in hand with Dr. Zama, Professor Herman, as well as Dr. John Ajengwin, and who have been working closely with them to make sure they understand what our exact problem was, so they can give us a solution that fits our specific scenario. The major deliverable of this project, as we've all heard, was so that as Ambazonia, as the people of Ambazonians, we will have an organic fertilizer policy framework that we can start using, not just post-revolution, but which we can start implementing in small scale through our different humanitarian organizations, different people that are communities that are involved in farming and whatnot. So we're gonna hear a lot from this a team that has been working diligently to provide us with such a valuable solution. So you've heard me talk about Team Amba, and you're probably wondering, who is this Team Amba? No, I am not talking about Dr. Zama or Professor Herman. No, that's not Team Amba. Team Amba here is the team at the university, at this school, La Follette school, that took upon themselves to answer a real life question that the people of Ambazonia have. And before I go on to introduce them, I think there is a disclaimer we need to note. This exercise was purely an academic research exercise that was meant to provide a solution to a real life problem, that a question that they got. It is not in any way an indication of their support or affiliation by word or action in anything with the current crisis that the people of Ambazonia are facing. So it is not a political stand of any kind, but purely an academic exercise that they undertook. So it is important we understand that, so we do not come asking them questions for which they have no business answering. So I'm going to go ahead and present to you Team Amba. I love the fact that they chose to call themselves Team Amba, and I am hoping that they continue being Team Amba, because I believe that they are so super intelligent, and they completely owned this project. That's why they named themselves that, and they continue to be of value to us. So I'm going to introduce them in no particular order, because this was a team effort. They had a faculty advisor. There is no specific team lead. This was a team that put equal amount of effort to realize what it did. So first off, we have Megan Philly. Megan, you can just wave. I know you guys will introduce yourselves again when you talk. So that's Megan Philly, who is part of Team Amba from the University of Wisconsin. We have Nicole Springer. So they're just going to wait for now. You're going to meet them as they talk. We have Michaela Pesh right there. I love it when young ladies are doing awesome things. And of course, we always have young guys that come together. That's how communities work. Hand in hand, we do awesome things. And then we have Austin Fraley. Austin Fraley right there is part of Team Amba. And we have Connor Interest. Connor, if you're there, just wave. So that is Team Amba, everyone. And I really hope that we keep an open mind as we listen to them. I'm sure there's a lot to learn today. So I will hand it over to you guys to then please go ahead and do your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, I just want to reiterate our thanks. Thank you all for taking the time to come and listen to our presentation today. I want to especially thank Amba Farmers Voice for their invitation to us to work on this project and their help and collaboration with it. I also want to thank Megan, our faculty advisor, who's in attendance here. She gave us very helpful feedback throughout the process. And just to reiterate, so I'm Austin, and these are my colleagues, Megan, Connor, Michaela, and Nicole. And so we're all students at the Follette School of Public Affairs at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So as Jesse mentioned, we're doing this presentation as part of our degree program. So today we're going to take you through our work on organic fertilizer production and promotion in Southern Cameroons. But just a quick roadmap of our discussion. So first, I'll take us through the background of the project and the methodology we used. We actually have two sets of recommendations. So one will be focused on the production methods of organic fertilizer, which Connor and Megan will describe. And another set is focused on implementation methods, which Megan and Michaela will describe. And then Nicole will discuss the limitations we faced and summarize our recommendations. And then we'll have some time for questions. So as most of you know, Amba Farmers Voice is a nonprofit founded in 2019 that focuses on agricultural education in Southern Cameroons through traditional media. We just wanted to put this up here to set some parameters for our research that we used. So we're focusing on Southern Cameroons, and AFV noted or requested that we focus on the post-conflict framework. So everything we discussed today would not actually be implemented until the current conflict ends. In addition, AFB indicated an interest in potentially scaling up production and sharing their methods with other NGOs or partnering with other NGOs. So our recommendations are targeted at all NGOs, including Amba Farmers Voice. So you might hear us refer to an NGO and AFB somewhat interchangeably for that reason. So the key question we attempted to address was, how can Southern Cameroons develop a bottom-up framework of organic fertilizer production and promotion for a post-conflict society that makes organic fertilizer accessible to subsistence farmers and reduces the region's reliance on synthetic fertilizer imports? So by bottom-up, we mean that the needs and desires of the community the project's design and outcomes. So we mean this not only in terms of the literal soil and agricultural potential of the landscape, but also the actual community and farmers' capacities and desires. As I mentioned, we're focused on post-conflict development, and we're also focused on subsistence farmers. So we're not, at least in the current stages, we're not focused on industrial or large-scale farmers, but small-scale farmers who farm their own food. And I'll discuss their reliance on imported fertilizers in a moment.